to encourage you to read a book called Leading with Honor. It's written by Colonel retired Lee Ellis. Colonel Ellis was a prisoner of war in Vietnam for almost 6 years. Great guy, by the way. And like young Lieutenant Squarnina, Squarnina spent some time in combat. Here's what he says about prisoner of war from his own time in prison and his own experiences. When they were beaten down, and remember, he doesn't use himself, he talks in third person. When they were beaten down, they didn't conceal their shortcomings or wallow in self-pity. They picked themselves up and continued to lead with inspiration, courage, and unselfish devotion. There's nothing quite like the crucible of a POW camp for revealing authenticity. When you're enduring hunger and humiliation, punctuated by frequent threats of torture and even death, pretenses get stripped away very fast. You are completely vulnerable. Transparency is the only option. You come face to face with doubts and fears you never knew you had. That's what Lee Ellis said. I imagine that young First Lieutenant Stephen Squarnina experienced those same emotions. Mike Ranney was a World War II U.S. Army soldier who fought in an infantry company made famous by the book in a series called The Band of Brothers. Many years after the war ended, Mike wrote the following words: "I cherish the memories of a question my grandson once asked when he said, 'Grandpa, were you a hero in the war?' The grandpa, Mike, said to his grandson, 'No, son, but I served in a company of heroes.'" I'm deeply touched by those sentiments, modest sentiments expressed by Mike Ranney. Like today's veterans, including the proud members of the Hill Country Retreat Veterans Group, our World War II veterans were ordinary men who did extraordinary things every day. Collectively, they preserved democracy and the notion of life, liberty, in the pursuit of happiness. Because of their service and sacrifice, America remains the greatest country in the history of the world. If Stephen was here today, you know what I would tell him? I'd tell him thank you. You know what I'd tell him thank you for? For winning. We won, didn't we? So, sir, I'll thank you instead, and the Squarnina family. Thank your dad for what he did. He won. These guys and gals fought in faraway locations called Pearl Harbor, Guadalcanal, Sicily, and Midway, in the Kasserine Pass. They bled on beaches of places called Normandy, Tarawa, Iwo Jima, and Okinawa. They faced death every day in the skies over France, as Lieutenant Squarnina did, and in Belgium, Germany, Rabaul, North Africa, and Wake. They froze in the bitter cold at Bastogne, and they sweated and rotted in the muddy jungles of places like Guam in the Philippines. They crossed the Himalaya mountains, and they secured every ocean in the world. Your father represented over 13 million soldiers, sailors, Marines, airmen, and Coast Guardsmen, and merchant Marines who served in the United States military during World War II. And the price this generation paid for our liberty was and is staggering. Over 230,000 soldiers, 88,000 airmen, 62,000 sailors, 24,000 Marines, 9,500 Coast Guardsmen, and 1,900 merchant Marines paid the ultimate price. Another 672,000 were wounded, and 130,000 of them became prisoners of war. Can you fathom that? Lieutenant Stephen Squarnina was born in 1921. He was one of these World War II veterans and was one of these prisoner of wars. Born of Slavic immigrants, Stephen was the first generation American who worked hard in a variety of jobs before volunteering to serve in his country. In 1943, he reported right here in San Antonio, where he was trained as a navigator and assigned to the 702nd Bombardment in England, flying the B-24 Liberator. The B-24 Liberator was introduced in 1941. It was a more advanced heavy bomber than the earlier B-17 Flying Fortress, and it saw action on both the European and the Pacific fronts. Faster than the B-17 and with greater range and payload, the B-24 proved so popular that over 18,000 were built by the end of the war. Stephen trained to operate this mighty aircraft, and though only briefly, he operated it well. On his first combat sortie aboard the B-24, lovingly called, you'll like this, Pistol Packin' Mama, Lieutenant Squarnina, newly learned skills were put to the test. When two of the aircraft's four engines failed, the pilot turned to Stephen to help determine the wounded plane's exact position, and without hesitation, Stephen immediately provided the information necessary for the pilot to make the decision to land in supposedly neutral Switzerland in order to save the crew. Immediately captured upon landing and turned over to Nazi sympathizers, Lieutenant Squarnina never gave up, but continued to fight. Despite being forced to live in deplorable conditions, he had the courage to defy his captors by repeatedly trying to escape, costing his captors time, manpower, and frustration with every attempt. By continuing to resist, despite the cost each time he was caught, and each time he was caught, the conditions he endured were worse than the previous ones, he truly served with honor while captured. So again, let me ponder my definition of hero. Someone who serves in the face of danger, who displays courage and puts service before self for the greater good of humanity. Would we not agree that Lieutenant Stephen Squarnina fit this description? What do you think?
Yes, sir.
I agree. Let me finish my comments with a promise to the Squarnina family and his friends who are with us today. The role of the American warrior has, is, and always will be to fight our nation's battles. Not all battles take place in the air or on the ground. Sometimes it is the battle to keep fighting even when within the clutches of the enemy, like Stephen did. But to all of you, you can sleep well tonight, because we have Americans who are willing to stand strong, fight, and most importantly, win our battles, drawing on inspiration from such heroes as Lieutenant Stephen Squarnina. He represented the best our country had to offer, and he paved the way for all American airmen that followed in his footsteps. While he never shared this story with his family, with his co-workers or others, his story is now being told. He was a hero. And we can look to him for inspiration during the tough days that lie ahead for us when the chips are down. And we'll keep fighting. So, I'm really honored to be part of telling this story. And we honor him today. So, to the family, thank you for your father's courage. God bless you, and God bless America. Thank you.